We made it. Made it all the way through the extended summer split. We're still alive. Wow. Jordan, do you remember thinking back to the beginning of this split where you thought we'd be when the regular season came to a close?
Not exactly, but approximately.
Well, we're like a tiny bit better than where we thought we'd be, really.
Yeah. No, yeah, that sounds about right. 3, I think, is what I had said.
This and other inspirational thoughts on tonight's 100 Talk. This is what we do here. We're 100 Thieves fans. This is the 100 Thieves fan cast about LCS in particular. And I'm Cole. That's Jordan. It's time to talk about the playoff picture. It's time to talk about this last weekend of games. It's time to talk about 100T Kenvy.
What?
100TA Kenvy. Soon to be
100T.
100T Kenvy? Maybe. Oh, yeah. What? Yeah, I guess technically he's in there. Anyway, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about playoff picture. We're going to talk about we're not going to get into detail about all right, first week matchup. Here's what's going to happen. Here's our draft pool. We're going to save that for next week, but we are going to talk smart. Yeah, once we're smarter about it. Smarter, because smart objectively ain't going to happen. But we'll talk about what our path looks like. We'll talk about what we think about the other contenders and just in general, the mood. We're going to take the temperature of 100T fandom tonight on 100 Talk, powered by Ripit Energy Fuel.
Oh, Ripit Energy Fuel.
The only good tasting energy drink in the entire universe.
Yeah, this is the one. We found it, Cole. And boy, did we find a lot of it. Excuse me.
Yes, I found a lot of it in boxes on my doorstep.
That's right.
Shout out Unified Live for the raid. Thank you. Great to see you as always. We're just about to talk about this weekend in 100T LCS action. And always love seeing you guys. Love what you do. Jordan, let's get into it.
Let's do it, Cole. Weekend starts on Friday in the LCS.
Unfortunately for us, because for whatever reason, we've got the Friday nerf. I meant to go back and count how many of our losses came on a Friday. Doing this really quick with the eyeball. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me work forward here. 5.
All of them.
6. 6 of our losses have come on a Friday. Did you know that? We actually have let's see, we have only 1, 2 losses not on a Friday. No, 3 if you count the Academy game. 3 losses not on a Friday. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
That is pretty crazy. It's a nerf for us.
We're gonna have to expand our stat tracking from casters to day of week.
Yeah, right.
Between those two, Cole, there's a model here. Betters hate him because he always knows the outcome.
That is kind of wild, though. We just kind of pulled that out of our booty cheeks. But yeah, that's 3 and 6 on Fridays.
I should have picked up on that way earlier for my own predictions.
I mean, we've casually joked. It was Friday game, dang, we're gonna suck. But I didn't know it was that definitive. Yeah. Anyway, we got TSM on a Friday, which was unfortunate for us because that game ended up being the standings decider for the end of the split. Of course, we took our one and only L from TSM this split.
Bummer.
And they were able to lock in first place in the LCS, and we locked in a second place and a bye, though. Importantly, a bye. We're going to talk about that later. Yep. First, just a few notes on the game. Again, we're not diving deeply into these. I think we're just going to kind of run through them. Jordan, Olaf from behind.
No one's favorite champion on the entire planet. It's such a bummer champ, man. I've talked about it before, how much it just makes me feel a sadness. And especially when it's closer, because, if he's not Olaf from behind, he's taken over the game. He's got 14 kills and no deaths, but instead 2 quick deaths.
Yeah. So he kind of gave those over. It's a little iffy, right? There was some serious roaming happening in that game, especially early on, but
yeah. I mean, I rewatched it. It's kind of those things where you rewatch the play and it actually doesn't age well. Like,
Oh, really?
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they rewatched it like 4 or 5 times on cast, I feel like, and it didn't look great then. But it's one of those where you just wish you could have it back. And I feel like for Olaf, if you give that first kill over, it's like, oh, here we go. Here we go. We're pushing the boulder up the hill, and I just got a broken ankle. And I don't know if this is possible now. But it's a bot lane, trots on up, right? Sword art there, quick as can be. We were there. We matched their roam, but we ran into a wall. And I kind of feel like you just got to flash that wall. You got to flash the wall with Thresh. You got to get over the wall and flay away and really just hope that Olaf survives it, because I mean, I think that kind of set the pace for the rest of the entire game. The fact that he was down bad. And let's see, it was, he was 0-2-2 after what seemed like 5 minutes. He finished the game 0-3-2. So I just don't think he did much after that point, which is kind of the name of the game with an Olaf who's down. So that would be my thing. It's like, man, it hurts and it's sad to blow a flash, at level 2 or whatever, but it seemed like we needed to just try to keep him alive somehow.
But you would have loved to see it, right?
Would have loved to see it. Yeah.
So. I do, one of my biggest things about this game was definitely the sword art, roam art that he was working on the Rift this weekend. I mean, that's really what it was all about.
Job. It's like the knockoff version of the Italian job, by the way.
The roam job. Yeah. Wow. The ball.
Dad jokes.
Anyway, he really messed things up, not only for Closer, but for Abadaga even. Couple roams. One was a success and a kill. But yeah, I felt like that was one of the main differences, was just stopping any semblance of an early game that we could have. And then on top of that, it's like that comp that we played, man, it's like, have you ever made like from scratch homemade chicken parmesan?
No.
Okay. So describing this to those who may not have done this.
I can imagine it.
It can be really, really great. Like chicken parmesan, like you spend the time, you do like the breading on it and everything, and you cook the noodles just right, and you artfully arrange it and you plate it. And then because it's chicken parmesan, you made way too much, right? And you stick it in the fridge. And then you don't feel like eating it really for lunch, because it's like, it doesn't really feel like lunch. And so it sits in the fridge for a few days, maybe a week or so. And then you go to reheat the chicken parmesan, and reheated chicken parmesan is never it. It's just never it. It's just stale. It's old. And that's what this comp was.
It's reheated chicken parm.
Is reheated the reheated chicken parmesan.
It was a masterpiece. The first time we pulled it out. And I feel like the first time we pulled it out, or one like it, was against TSM. And boy, did we show them what for.
Just let the record show, we kicked him in the teeth both times we played him before this, right? So
which is why I picked us to win this game, and I was wrong.
Yep.
I didn't expect that we'd start the way we did.
No, I didn't either. But so the comp could have worked without that bad start. But that's an important point. Like they've got Jin, right? Jin, I think, has looked really, really cool and good coming on in the past like 2 weeks or so, right? Yeah. And then they have the Silas lane counter, right? With Cassio. And so those are kind of like, it's not like the brand new, no one's ever seen it before look, but it's certainly more current than what we were doing. So yeah, it's like, okay, so Varus is going to outpoke the lane. All right, well, let's just get a longer poker, right? Let's get Jin out here,
right?
And Cassio
just
preventing Silas trades from being effective. It was kind of like they were a step forward, and here's what we do. Here are what our picks are. So yeah, I did feel I felt like the game was still winnable if the early game goes differently, but it's a little bit harder when they've got a couple of answers to what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, the kill line ended 11-2. And the weird thing about this game is, I mean, gold-wise,
Yeah. Okay.
We weren't that far behind.
In
for a good part of
fact, I pulled this out because I was very surprised by it. Right. Because in my memory of the game, it's like, oh man, we got beat really bad by TSM. It wasn't close. Did you know, Jordan?
I didn't. I'll tell you now. I didn't.
At 25 minutes, right? They take a tower of ours and push their gold lead at 25 minutes to an astounding 2,900. And like, that's a lead. That's okay. But it's like 25 minutes into that game, we were kind of not that far behind. And it was right off a tower. I thought my memories of the game, I was like, okay,
we were tier 2. That was probably the tier 2 tower take, Colin. I don't know if you knew this, but that tower is worth a lot more.
Oh, first time I'm hearing that. I certainly haven't heard it on the cast.
I think it was a bug. Yeah.
But yeah, if you would have asked me, like, if I would have guessed what the gold difference was at 25 minutes, like, you know, before I looked this up, I would have been like, 6, 7, something 8K. Like that. You think 8? Yeah. It wasn't that bad. Yeah. But it didn't feel in reach either. So
no, it really didn't.
Kind of a weird game.
Yeah, I agree. I think we'd have to go back and watch to see what the redeeming factor was.
Well, I have a theory on that.
Okay, please. Yeah.
And it's a very basic theory, and the casters pointed it out, so I get 0 credit. But if you look at what we did, I know people were down after this loss, and it was kind of like, okay, more of the same. Yeah, you know, we're not really looking good going into the playoffs. For me, I was like, you know what? We kind of just refused to fight him. We're like, all right, cool. So Olaf's behind. We're not going to get it done by fighting this team. Let's avoid that. Let's split push. They're going to group. Let's not group.
Right.
And I think that's ultimately what did it, is avoiding fighting. Because, you know, I don't actually know this off the top, but it's like, if you go back to that 25-minute mark that I pointed out, it was probably, the kill score is probably like 4-1 at that time. Right.
Yeah.
And that's meaningful when it comes to gold difference, because a lot of times when the gold snowballs, it's kill.
Right.
And so that's kind of what it felt like to me. And honestly, I was like, okay, so if you wipe the early game and we didn't really play a great comp, at least into what they did, it was reasonably close and we kind of played it as well as you could play it. It's like, there's some silver lining to the cloud. And at this time for 100T fans, it's probably not, you know, that's probably a little unexpected to find some sort of positive in this loss. But that's honestly how I felt, man.
Yeah.
that is the of disagreement right there.
This may be one of the rare instances where you have a more optimistic feeling about anything LCS related than I do. I mean, for me, there are a couple things that are concerning. The draft. So it's like, look, in a best of 5, you need to be approximately 1 step ahead of your opponent to win the series, right? Like, if it's if it goes all 5 games, do they start best of 3 or do they start best of 5?
They start best of 5, I think.
I apologize. If it's best of 5, that makes more sense.
We'll look at it later.
Yeah, but you know, it's like, well, yeah, we've got a plan. It feels like being a step ahead is a big deal, because if it's a 5-game series, being a step ahead means maybe you have a 1-game advantage, right? Maybe this is the game, and it feels like I think the silver lining for me might be, these are things that in VOD review you can kind of point to and say, never do this again. We gotta fix the early game.
Yeah.
We cannot give this kind of a lead over. And then from there, I agree with you. I think like we made smart adjustments and we didn't just completely int the game away. Which I feel like has been. There have been losses we've had this split where there's not a lot to learn. It's just like, well, we lost that game badly. And so in some ways it's like, yes, we were closer to winning the game, but the draft piece is a little bit concerning to me, where it's like we played standard and we tried our best to just win with the comfort stuff we have.
Yeah. And
they were the ones who had the smart modifications with the picks that are a little bit more meta, right? Cassio getting a buff, viable option, you know, that much more viable. I think any champ can be viable considering what you're going into for the most part. And then like that's a big punish, right? That's a big deal. And we saw it come out. Like, it really did have an impact. Abadaga he's 1-4-1. I didn't realize that stat line is what he ended with, but that's a bad stat line. And there were just some very notable plays, right? Like, this is the other thing I thought was concerning about this game. They had a bot lane focus, right? Whether it was bot, like South Jungle, or which I will get to catch on. It's just a matter of time. Why do it any other way? South Jungle. And then they use bot lane to roam up with Romart, as you talked about. But they played a lot of this game in the bottom side of the map. I mean, Huni had a good game.
4 of his 5 kills were right at the end.
4 of his 5 kills were right at the end. They didn't play this game in the top side of the map. He was content to farm and then have his pop off Viego moment in the final fight of the game, the closing act. So they played it all in the bot, or not all, but the kind of the formative moments of this game happened in the bot side of the map. And that's not typically what we see when people play against us, right? It's been punish top lane. It's been punish someday, try to get your top laner ahead. So that was a little concerning. And the fact that we didn't really seem like the matching roams, roam for mid lane, where Abadaga has no choice but to walk directly into darkness, which was a Cassio ult, right? Like, and he's dead. That's an instant death. So it felt to me like TSM made a couple of smart adjustments and just tweaked their game plan, that much, knowing what we do and probably anticipating what champions we'd have, how we needed to play the game. Like, Olaf is going to challenge this double buff start. So roam.
Yeah.
And there it was, right? They got us. So some of that stuff feels to me like, I think TSM they've wised up. Like, this was not just us playing badly. I think they made some smart adjustments, which for me is almost more concerning.
Jordan, I have no counter argument here.
Thank you.
You've successfully depressed me about this game.
Oh no.
Before I was just kind of sad and whatever, trying to shake it off. But now it's etched into my memory in a bad way.
It's a trend. It's a trend of other teams getting better, which,
who would have guessed?
Is this? You don't want this to be the meeting point.
Yeah.
And then playoffs are here approximately. Well, it's rough.
Yeah. And I mean, look, it's not like this wasn't unexpected. I mean, maybe for you and your predictions, but as for me and being right all the time with my predictions, I knew and predicted that we would lose this game. Really more on momentum and the Friday curse than anything else, right? But I think you're right. And again, this is the teaser that we'll come back to, but it really does seem like the other teams getting better as we thought they would, but the problem is we have not. So, but thankfully there was some reprieve this weekend in the form of a Golden Guardian stomp.
Yes.
And
one of my favorites.
I think 80% of a Golden Guardians game for us is like, whatever, it doesn't really matter. We're probably going to win, whatever. Despite, owning a chunk of that roster and the history and all that, it just never really seems to be that big of a deal. But now that they got Licorice, as we dubbed it on stream. Oh, guys, if you didn't know, we did a VOD squad stream this weekend.
I don't think I've ever heard you say Licorice before. Was that just a VOD squad?
Just VOD squad audience only. He's kind of owned us, especially owned Someday in recent memory, and it felt good to punch back for once this time. The Gwen pick for Someday still looks strong, despite sometimes missing the ultis. He hit a lot more in this match than he has been.
We kept a close eye on that. Probably overly critical on the hit rate.
Super critical about that for no particular reason at all.
Right.
But the other big thing. So after Spica thoroughly outperformed Closer in a game that probably decided the MVP race, to be honest.
Yeah. Yep.
Closer got his comeback game. And not only did he have a comeback game, but he also got to disprove our anemic Viego theorem that we've been having. Jordan, would you like to recap this for the viewers at home?
The theorem we have, it's this. Why is this always such a high priority pick? Other than the fact that Cooney can get a quadra for us. Well, I think for a lot of teams.
Really? Okay.
I don't know.
I think it's like for us, but
yeah, specifically for us, because it just doesn't seem to be the pop-off champion. And then he goes and does this 9-0-8. Yeah.
9-0-8? It was that high?
9-0-8. Yeah. It was very high. It was very high. And I feel like every time he stole a body, it was Leona. And just like
okay, cool. Zenith Blade, let's get another one.
Yeah. Just bring me in. Send me in. So yeah, I can see it. I can see it in this game, why that's a pick that we like. This is the first time I feel like the closers played it that it felt like a very closer performance, right? Of just him being that aggro carry and cleaning up fights. And it felt good. Now, and then I feel like this is the thing. Just coming off the TSM game, I feel like every play I was like, man, but it's Golden Guardians. But it is Golden Guardians. So that was a big moderator to my level of overall excitement. Cool. I'm sorry to report. I don't. Maybe am I a pessimist now? What's happening?
Yes.
What is this?
You've always been known for just irrationally being pessimistic. That's exactly what your personality has been on the pod the whole time. Yeah. So that play in the bottom, not in the river, right? Like outside of Drake Pit, where closer got the Leona Zenith Blade and Abadaga hit him with the ball on the way in and triggered the shockwave. That was so clean looking. And I was like, okay, now we're in business. Now we're playing the Viego that I want to see when we hit playoffs. Like that. That looked really, really good, and it was decisive and quick. It was like, you mentioned seeing the plays, a couple things, a couple times in advance, and that's exactly what was going on with that play. So shout out to Closer for the comeback game, for redeeming the Viego pick for everyone but Jordan.
Honestly, I still have this. There's still part of me that says, against stronger competition, is this the champion I'm going to be very excited about? I don't know. I'm still not fully sold. I'll tell you what I did see speaking of attach the ball to Viego. It would be a really cool combo, Cole. I don't know if you've heard about this ability that is out there in the game right now. Tom Kench has an ability where he can go anywhere and deliver a shockwave to wherever he'd like.
Unlimited range.
A cool one for us to run. I don't know. We could think about it. Might be good. I don't know.
But we didn't see it. We didn't show it before playoffs, man. That gives me some pause. We're going to have to talk about that in the next week pod.
Yeah. Where's TK? Still on our bench. Everyone else.
We've benched the Kench.
We've re-benched the Kench. I asked for it and we did it. And then everyone else is like, yo, just play it top lane.
Trust me, dog.
You have to kill him 6 times. It's great.
Yeah. That's too bad. But again, we got another hey, someday Gwen is something to figure into your preparations game before we signed off. We're like, all right, FBI is playing Varus. Someday, still remember that Gwen. Closer Viego. All right, cool. Abadaga is just Abadaga.
Can I mention this?
No, you can't mention it.
I got to credit.
No, you can't mention it.
Move on.
All right,
cool. It's off the script. I'm gonna go. BC mentioned in chat that we've had one game of FBI on something other than Varus since our win streak.
I think it was one win where he played something other than Varus.
Either way,
since
we've seen a lot of Varus.
Yes,
and I said this to you in VOD Squad. I said that we play this a lot, and this is a champ that everyone knows we're going to play, and they always let it through. They never ban it. And for me, I get this feeling of like they know what we're going to do, and they're okay with it.
Yeah,
I just feel like that's not really a place you want to get to as a team, where it's like
6 of the last 8, by the way, are Varus.
6 of the last 8 on Varus. And it was the same. Look, I'm not drawing. This is not a parallel situation. I'm not saying they're equal, but I said the same thing about Stunt on Nautilus. Again, not the same situation, but it was one of those where it's like, look, every game, literally every game. It's probably for him. It's probably like 11 out of 11. Yeah. I don't know how long the streak went, but it would have been easy for people to ban it. it's kind of like at that point you ban it, and then what do they play? Let's see, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know,
so
man.
here's another interesting spin on this discussion. Jordan, did you know? One second. Let me finish calculating. Hold on.
He's counting.
Okay, did you know the last time we had an ADC ban was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games ago? So for 7 games, they have not banned a single bot laner against us.
Why? That makes me feel like sad.
A little worried?
Yeah. And it's I don't doubt that FBI can play other stuff. And we've seen him for most of this split. He played other stuff and he popped off continuously.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a head scratcher. Like,
yeah.
What do they? I mean, I guess probably the first thing to do is look at what they are banning instead, right? I think the way that tends to work is teams start to learn what you can actually punish us more by banning, and it's
mid
attacking
jungle
the champion pools. It's attacking it, yeah. So
it looks like mostly mid jungle and a little support mixed in.
Yeah, or they just feel like that's a position that is easier to carry from now.
Yeah, I mean, I just like the theory that you no matter what, he's going to smash. So focus elsewhere, because I think largely that's held up. It's like even though we haven't been winning all those games, it's like with maybe one exception, it ain't FBI's fault. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
right. But I do feel like Varus is a champ where if you aren't like we've talked before about his Kaisa, right? It's a champion where because of the mobility, because of the the burst potential, even in a fight, if you can isolate a target and get all the Q onto that one target, like you can still do some pretty good work in a team fight, even if you're far behind. That is not true for Varus. That is not how your Varus will behave. If it's coming from a deficit in items, you are basically just useless. And it's not. It doesn't matter how good the player is.
Right.
You land your poke, and it does 300 damage, but the person has 2,500 HP. It's like, okay, and now you're on a 5-second cooldown. So enjoy that, and you have no mobility. So I could see that where they're thinking,
but you have the chains. You can land the chains. Except for he doesn't. That's if there's one weakness of FBI, it's landing the Varus ults.
So that's how I feel about that. That concerns me a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to see. Yeah, like what is the next thing that we'll do? Because there has to be a different look. There has to be a different look.
Jordan, you're such a downer tonight.
I'm sorry.
I'm thinking about playoffs. I'm start calling you Eorden.
Okay.
Oh, that was terrible. All right, look, we smashed GG. We're going to talk about implications of both the smashing of GG and the fact that we rotated Academy in shortly. Okay, but let's just in a vacuum talk about the EG game quickly to get that out of the way. First of all, fun to see the younglings in, right?
Very fun. Very fun.
We have, in my opinion, we have the most promising pool of talent in our academy program. And so it's really fun seeing the announcement that those guys get to play. You get to see Luger on an LCS stage. You get to see Tenacity on an LCS stage. You get to see Kenvi on an LCS stage. Poom is back. Poom gang, Poomers, shout out. And of course, Ryoma as well, who Joe Alito, cover your ears. Love the guy, man. I'm so happy to see him back, so happy to get some more playing time. Not for starting LCS for us, but I like him so much and I want him to succeed. So it's cool seeing that. And how was what's your take on how they did? Just in general.
Man, I thought first off, big task. Like, this is not the bring in the academy guys and give them a little experience on the stage. This was like, hey, throw them at the team who is fighting for their life and position in playoffs. Not fighting for their life, fighting for their position and wants to win this game as badly as any game they've wanted to win this split. They're going to do everything they can. So that is saying something, because that's a pretty tough spot to be in. I thought they did really well. And obviously they didn't play the perfect game. They didn't win, but the thing that I like the most about this is that they came and they played their game. They just showed up and played the game exactly as they do. And it was, one, fun to watch. And two, I thought it was a pretty effective way to go about the game, right? Like they made plays that were not guaranteed. Some of them worked, some of them didn't work. And
they were cool. They were cool plays.
And they were cool. They were cool plays. And I think, obviously, like there are there's still a gap between our academy team and the EG main team, to be expected. I don't think anybody should feel badly about that. But yeah, I thought it was really cool. And then I think there were some things we did actually very well. Like early bot lane was beasting, and that thing is something to be feared. You can just tell that Luger and Poom know each other well. They know the style they want to play, and they executed the heck out of it. And it was super fun to watch and pretty spooky for a little bit. I think if you're an EG fan, to say like,
yeah,
these dudes are building a meaningful lead in the bot lane.
Yeah. Man, where to start on this? So let's start Tenacity for me. So here's the thing. If you haven't really watched Tenacity in Academy much, you might have looked at that game and been like, yeah, okay, whatever, not ready. Or even, yeah, he got camped, whatever. It didn't mean anything. Like, the thing is, like, Tenacity's been really good. Like this, he hasn't had a game this bad, I don't think, all year. And it's not because he's playing LCS. It's because, they gave that all of their attention, basically, because they had to abandon the bot lane. So my only thing is, like, don't let this stain your opinion of Tenacity. The dude is cracked, and he's young. Like, is he 18 yet? Is Tenacity 18? I don't know. He's right around there. He's very young. He is a good player, man, and he definitely, in my opinion, he'll definitely get some looks for LCS in next season. I hope we hold on. But again, kind of out of necessity, right? Because the bot lane was cooking, and as pointed out in chat, Luger was gapping Danny, which Danny's been like the rookie of the year kind of. Yeah. Only answer basically for that award. And I think was Freak casting this, and was Freak the one who made the joke that was like Luger with his one game, is going to steal the rookie of the split from Danny, but it's kind of true. It's kind of true. Yeah. And despite how this game went, Luger didn't die, by the way.
Yeah. That's insane.
That's pretty insane. Impressive considering how it went. Yeah.
On a champ that doesn't have a lot of options to get out of a bind.
Versus like one of the most mobile team comps like you'll see
against the Wukong. That's the crazy part. It's like so many options for them. The Jizuke on Twisted Fate, he could be anywhere on the map, and he didn't be in the place that allowed him to kill Luger once.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of crazy as Wukong is spinning and covering the entire bot lane with Jizuke teleporting behind you, and then Xin Zhao just dashing right into your face. Like that's pretty crazy.
Couldn't kill the Varus. Yeah.
Couldn't kill the Varus.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like before this, I think Luger, Kenvi, and Tenacity have been everybody's like, hey, these are the guys to watch for LCS positions. And honestly felt like, again, Tenacity's, you can't really read too much into that because of what happened. But I mean, I think Kenvi and Luger delivered the goods. I thought Kenvi looked great to me. They were in a bad way for pretty much, since after what was it, like the first 10 minutes or the first 15 minutes or something like that, when everything just went south. Kenvi was just not lucky this game, and still was pretty threatening, still mechanically looked very clean. Still was dodging all the critical skill shots, was in the right position almost every time. Like I really am high on these guys. And I hope we're able to keep them because, again, these are talents you don't want in the hands of your opponents.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think the one thing that's in this is probably, I won't go too far down this road, but there are teams that would pay a premium to have access to this caliber of talent.
Yes, many pesos for those dudes.
Yeah, it's not a bad position to find yourself in. It brings its own challenges because then you are forced to make the call on, do we keep these guys cooking or do we just cash in? And it's a tough question. I think that's actually there's some interesting things there. I think the fact that it's crazy that this was our academy, like our 100 next team.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
with a couple of exceptions. Yeah. Obviously, Luger not on that, right? I'm not on that. Mm-hmm. But like, what a arc for these players,
for those guys.
I mean, and this game, it if not for a really smart contracts play using his ult to knock Kenby out of the pit, that wouldn't have been the most unlikely Baron steal of all time.
Yeah, right.
It came down to a smite fight, and he couldn't end up fighting it because he wasn't in the pit.
It was shocking. It was shocking that he even had an opportunity for a second there.
He fought his way through it to get in there.
Yeah, and just going back to this, call this out. Papa Smithy in chat saying, tenacity did the best he could with the way draft played out. Really carried comms in some spots. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's like, do not let what happened in this game be your opinion of him, because he is a very high quality player, and watching him in academy, he's, like I said, he's looked really excellent. So I'm high on those guys. Like I said, I'm happy with their performance this weekend, despite how this game went, because for me, it was like, you know how a lot of those plays that they made early where things were just not quite enough, right? Yes. Not quite enough damage, or the exhaust just made it so they couldn't get the kill or whatever. The thing that happens with those, as you know, is that they just cascade, right? And it snowballs, because it's like if you make 3 plays where you almost pulled something off insane, but you didn't quite have enough,
right?
That turns on you and that snowballs. So when you look at the gold situation and the map situation and everything, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, they absolutely got stomped. I don't feel like it was nearly that bad, because it was just lots of oh man, if he had just 2% more damage, that game goes differently.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that's what I tweeted after the game, is I'm not upset about this game at all. I think it was much closer than it looked like, and it was a snowball that happened because we barely fell short a few times, Yeah. So great performance by them, in my opinion. I hope that we remember what happened this game and not just the result.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people are quick to look at it and say, this was us throwing in the towel, or just kind of sandbagging, or, whatever. But if you were watching this game and you were giving we put up more of a fight against EG than a lot of first string teams do, Mm-hmm. So I don't feel bad about that at all. I think these players showed they've got a lot of promise and potential, and we'll be seeing more of them. I'm positive of that, whether it's with us or a different team. Personally, I hope that we get the opportunity to see more of them with us, but
yeah, me too.
LCS futures for the players on our academy squad.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't think I said it outrightly. Poom. The last time Poom was in LCS, he didn't have an easy time on the way out. He started off very strong in LCS, but he was kind of thrown in there very early for him. I mean, he went from 100 next to starting LCS very quickly. And it was not his fault. We were in a tight spot. We were trying to shake things up, and he looked very promising. And he started off great, and then it just kind of fell off, and that's fine. That's kind of what happens, right? So to see him come in, I thought he played excellent in this game,
especially
with in lane with Luger, especially. So I was happy. I felt like this again, despite what the result looks like on the scoreboard, to me it felt almost like a redemption game for him.
Yeah, and it this is one of the things we say all the time. I don't know enough about League of Legends to tell you strategic matchups and
we're idiots. Yeah,
But I will tell you, I've played enough Thresh games into Leona to know that is a poor matchup, especially, once you get into the point where Leona is standing in front of everybody on her team. And if you get a hook on her, it's more just an invitation for her to re-engage on your team. So that's a tough one. And, Sword Art, or sorry, not Sword Art. Ignar, obviously, great player. And he played the matchup well. So he made life pretty tough for Poom after. But, that being said, like he did play the lane phase.
Didn't Ignar play Braum?
Oh, am I thinking about a different game?
You might be. I think Ignar was on Braum.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking about our game against Sword Art.
But
that's why I said Sword Art.
Poom played really well, man. And Ignar's good. So your point still stands.
Thank you. Thanks for saving that one for me.
Yeah.
My point stands against who he into Sword Art's Leona.
There you go.
The wrong game.
There you go.
I talked about it in the wrong game.
That's right. That's right. We're just going out of order here. We're just freestyling it. Free form.
Jumping around.
No structure kind of podcast. So, okay. Let's talk contextually about this. I tweeted some of my thoughts about this. I was surprised to see the Academy roster rotated in for that last game. Obviously at that point, second place locked in. So when it comes to our standings, it doesn't really matter what happened from that point. I do not know for sure if EG had locked third place at that point. It was a no.
When we made the call?
I don't think so. Okay, yeah. All right. So they had not locked third.
To win.
So my first reaction was like, hey, they're kind of good, and maybe we don't want to see them early on if we can help it, because it's if they got rid of the top seed gets to pick who their opponent is kind of deal. So basically, if you're the second seed, you're on track for the third seed, assuming everything goes chalk. So I was kind of like, I'm not sure I'm feeling this move because, obviously we're not expecting a win there when we put the Academy guys in there. But then I thought about momentum, and I think that's ultimately what sold me, because, we've brought this up a lot, and especially in the last podcast, we were talking about the importance of momentum and how it feels, to be in your current form. And I think we lost any semblance of momentum in week 7 and week 8. Like it started to kind of crumble before then. And then really we had a couple of very rough weeks, it felt like, and things just didn't feel like we were the 100 Thieves of the first half of the split, right?
Right.
And so where I can see this being a huge positive is we get beat by TSM. That's kind of a bummer. Then we go to Golden Guardians, and we didn't just beat them, we curb stomp them. And it feels good. We got Closer like popping off, which is at this point, it's like maybe one of the most key things for us is how he's doing.
Yep. Seems to be currently. Yep.
The standings aren't going to change for us. So momentum wise, you let the players end feeling good, feeling like they earned some rest. Guys, what were we in 4th or 5th at the beginning of the split? 5th? Can't remember. Somewhere in that neighborhood, right? 4th maybe. Climbed up. We were in first place for almost the entire split. Right at the end, we slipped down to second, on the outcome of one game. Great split. You guys earned some rest. You play good. Your last moments before playoffs were great ones. Everyone's feeling as loose as possible. I'm good with it. I'm good with ending it there. There's an argument, I think, to be made for like, but you want them to be as sharp as possible. You want them to get that experience. Hey, by the way, we still have problems we need to sort out, or maybe we can show another pick people have to compensate for. Maybe we do someday on Tom Kench, something like that. But
for example,
ultimately it's like, if the idea was, and I suspect it was, to let the guys go out feeling good and get a couple of weeks to prepare for what's next, I like the call from a momentum perspective. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially if you forecast ahead and you say likely, or even if you don't feel it's likely, this is a possible first round matchup for us, this team that we play on Sunday. Why give them a preview of what we would prioritize against them? I'm like, I could see it from that perspective alone. Even if we'd had kind of a rougher game on Saturday, and mentally we weren't coming off a feel good win, like I could see a strategic value to just saying, hey EG, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Three?
So
is it 3?
3 weeks, whatever it is. Yeah.
No, it is 2. It is 2.
Is it?
Yeah, because 3 and 6 play this upcoming week, and then we play the winner of that.
Yeah, so I could see that. And I think there's the other side of it, which is, we talked a lot about the Reaper interview where he talked about potential for roster switches, and at that time we thought it was crazy because we're so hot, and all this stuff. It's like this is the one chance you have to put your team up against a legit team, a legit LCS team. Like I said, playing as hard as they possibly can. Because like look at the other teams who played on Sunday who had their seeding locked. They just trolled, which is fine for fun games. I mean, it's fine. They could have also just played their academy, like put some people in who they were curious about. Like there are ways to learn more about your team and your, prospects, that, every game is a valuable opportunity. So people were mad at us. I think, I didn't see a lot of people talking about like, why are we is this like the All-Star break now where we get to pick whatever we want and,
right.
random troll stuff. Like,
I didn't see the Santorin tweet about that one.
Yeah. It's really disrespectful to the rest of us who are competing,
It's kind of disrespectful for us to do that to a team we're competing hard against.
Yeah. That's, so for me, it makes sense on that front as well.
Yeah.
It's like, we know more about this academy team and the academy talent we have than we did before Sunday, which is great. Love that. And, I think for a lot of fans, this might be their first chance to really see and appreciate some of the stuff that we've got on deck.
Yeah. Well, so we're kind of in agreement with that. So the question then is for me, assuming that, my kind of perspective on this about momentum is the driver here, like, hey, good momentum. Let's give them this week off, not give anything to our opponents, etc. The question then is, did we actually do enough momentum wise? Like, if you take a snapshot of the team right now, how is it looking? Like, Jordan, do you think, like, given the form in Golden Guardians, how TSM went too, because that was part of this weekend, and then factoring in a 2-week preparation period, I mean, do you think momentum wise this was enough to rebound, or is it kind of a trick? Like, where, you know what I mean? Like, where are you feeling with this? Again, I want to reiterate, I actually like the decision in the final tally. At first I was kind of about it, but I came around to it.
Yeah. I mean, do I think it like cures all of our assorted ailments? No. I think there's still a lot that we got to work on. Is 2 weeks going to be enough for us to get there? We'll see. My concern is, and we can probably go into this more next week when we do like a matchup specific and looking forward. My concern is, a lot of the things that made us dynamic and hard to prepare for seem to have fallen by the wayside a bit.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those things feel like they're bigger than you can fix with minor tweaks and adjustments, right? At least that's my concern. And entirely possible that the team shows up and they have done that. But it's a lot to do, like we haven't had sustained positive momentum in a while. And when we had it, it was so good that I kind of feel like that will be the bar that people have in mind when we show back up. So even if we show up and we make it through our first round, and we don't do it in a super convincing fashion, people are going to say, well, they're going to get beat by the big three anyway. So what does it matter?
Yeah.
Like that's what I'm concerned about.
Right. We don't do a lot of reading chat takes and stuff, but I did want to call this one out from Kane 014, who says, I think having the close to 2 weeks off make it so momentum doesn't matter. So that's also an interesting consideration. That's like, I don't know. It's especially because we're offline. Or I'm sorry, we're online, excuse me. We're off the stage for this last week, right? For whatever reason, it's like if you're returning to the stage, it probably feels like you can recall your momentum and your form, and mentally it probably feels like it matters more. But I don't think Kane's necessarily wrong on this, that there's that may be enough time that the momentum feeling wears off. I'm not sure. I'm actually like kind of trying to make up my mind right now on the spot about that, but I still feel like I want to say, remembering my time as like an athlete, feeling like that momentum did matter to me, even off of a break. It's like the last time we were in form, the last time we were doing it.
Yeah, I mean I feel like that's a good point, and that is for sure a thing where it's like I remember specific. We talked about we both swam in high school. I remember specific races I swam. I still remember. This has been a long time now. I'm not in my 20s anymore. I remember specific races I ran, and I remember the feeling of finishing that race and just and feeling like I was unlocked. Like I can do anything, and so yeah, there's definitely some merit to that, of showing up and having a good game, and feeling like I just aced those guys, right? Like didn't die once, popped off, I got my swagger back. And if anything, maybe it just sets the tone for how you go back into scrims, right? Instead of feeling like we have to rebuild everything, like I still know how to play this game. I'm still,
right.
I was still in first place most of the split. So maybe there's some merit to that. And I think it's true. We don't, I feel like we don't get enough intel about scrims to really factor those into how a team is doing. But I mean, we do. I remember players saying we had a bad week of scrims, and that was kind of at the start of where our
that's right.
win streak started to either end or just get shaky.
Yeah, who he brought that up in I think a post game. Yep.
Right. So, we know that from their perspective, and whether or not that's just kind of a safer thing to say is like rough week of scrims. We do know that, at least as he would report it, having bad scrims can translate to, stage play that's not where you want it to be.
Yeah. So. The Papa Smithy added that 2 weeks of scrims, like the way it's going to break down for us without having the games there, is that it actually like plays out that we get more practice than we typically would.
Right.
In that amount of time, because we don't have the games. So he's saying it's like more than 3 weeks of normal scrims for them is how it's going to play out. So they have that extra time to prepare. So again, there's that, extra preparation that you get off of that, extra time to fix things, extra time to make corrections and get on form. But there is say if scrims go bad over a long period of time, there's potential for that mental to wear off as well. So
yeah,
I got trust that we're going to use the time well.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the staff is going to be really careful about how those scrims go, and I think it's going to be okay. Like I feel like momentum wise, definitely ending on a positive note is going to be better than the alternative. And hey, maybe we would have played EG and beat them, right?
Yeah, right. That's the flip of the coin.
There's that. But maybe we would have beat them and lost and still felt like, we're losing against the contenders now, so
yeah.
All in all, time will just tell. Again, we're going to talk more about what we think is going to happen in terms of preparation and how we match up against whoever our next opponent is going to be, most likely EG, and on next week's pod. So even though we have a break of stage action, we're going to do a 100 Talk next week where we'll do that and go more into predictions there. So don't want to say too much now, but I do think we should spend some time looking at the potential path through playoffs and just how things ended up. So here's the bracket. If you guys aren't aware, this is what we're looking at right now. So we do have the bye with TSM, which means we don't have to do anything, and we're in the winner bracket from the start. So we will get the winner of EG and Dignitas. And Dignitas may be showing some signs of life. Let me zoom. I have a zoomed one here also. Let me turn this in because this is a little easier for you guys to see. So C9 and Team Liquid are up in that bracket with TSM. Ultimately, if you make a title run, you're going to have to beat a contender or two. Like there's no easy path to winning a finals, right?
Right.
But I must say, it feels kind of nice to have C9, Team Liquid, and TSM all in that bracket up there away from us. When you see it like this, it's like, huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of okay with this, right? I think general feeling before this weekend was that EG was a team we didn't really want to see compared to the others. But as Jordan mentioned, the mystery of teams getting better. It seems like all of them did, and so C9, Team Liquid, Liquid obviously getting Santorin back, Sven looking excellent right now for C9, and C9 just picking it up.
Yeah.
Probably the better way for this to work out, right? When you really look at it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not mad about that. And I mean, honestly, if we're attributing big brain decisions here, like that does feel, it feels like it gives you the best odds to getting through to the next round, which I think chat was talking about this earlier, and I'm pretty sure that it's right. I can't credit who it was. I'm sorry, I forgot. If we win one of these matches, we are into Worlds. Is that I think that's true.
I think that's true.
Yeah, which is insane. That we, that feels like such an early lock because we get the bye, and because but hey, I mean, like that's the format. Boy, I tell you what, I hope doesn't happen. You see, and I'm not even going to say it could happen to us. I'm just going to say in general, the way this format works, having the top 2 seeds, or even like the upper bracket, being if you get to that August 21st set, like you could have a team who wins. Let's say EG wins against Dig. EG beats us. I don't think they will. EG beats us, and then they get rolled by everybody else they play. Like, 0-3. They still go to Worlds, and that feels horrible, right? Like, talk about momentum, getting smashed by people and making it into Worlds. Like, that could be that. It's the NA, misery bubble all over again. But
yeah, I'm zoomed out at this bracket to kind of look at it more carefully. So yeah, it's I think that's right what you're saying about how it works out. So all right, so all we got to do is beat EG is what you're telling me.
We just go to Worlds,
and we go to Worlds. This is an easy path to Worlds. But again, here at 100 Talk, even though we'll be thrilled if we make it to Worlds, what we really want is that title, baby.
Yeah.
So I think we're getting a favor done to us that, we don't have to play, the full C9, TL, TSM. Like we're dodging a lot of that. I think at this time, I think people are going to underrate us, and at the same time, all the other teams kind of look clumped together to me. I know TSM has the record, but to me, I think what people are going to say is that it's like TSM, C9, TL, EG in a grouping, and then us below it, and then everybody else. But I think we're in there with them, And so this is going to be like a brutal, bloodbathy playoffs, in my opinion. I'm here for it. I certainly don't feel as good about our chances as I did 4 weeks ago, or whatever. But I still think we have worked ourselves into a position that's about as favorable as it can when it comes to getting there. So kudos, because again, I'll remind you guys from the beginning of the season, I was like, this is, if we do it this year, that's cherry on the top. Like this is bonus. This is extra fan content for us, because really 2022 is the year where my real expectations kick in. So, I mean, I love that we're in this position. And as a fan, I'm hoping I can just block out the exact results of a lot of these most recent weeks and just focus on the overall picture. One thing, Jordan, we got 2 weeks to figure it out. We get a week of seeing the playoff patch before we have to play it.
Yeah.
It's going to be big, right?
Yeah. I think in that sense, it's nice that we have the extra scrim time. Just really, I mean, they're all grinding solo queue constantly, so that it's not like they're just being introduced to the changes. But
yeah,
you know, getting the comp work in on the playoff patch, that's pretty good. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not mad about that.
Now, I will say that something about this bracket is that Immortals is right down there in that 7th place spot. You know, there's a nice little gap, you might say, between them and the other teams. So, you know, that gap is definitely open and not closed, and that's why they're not in the same bracket as us. Just putting that on the record.
Yeah, I think that's we should record that. That's been recorded. It's on the record.
All right, let's do some listener things. We'll start with Glenn E. Taylor, who I believe owns an NBA team or did. Who says, concerned closer hasn't shown a tank or engaged look, especially with Divine Sunderer off-tank Volibear being viable and double marksman, and team fight comps picking up steam. He's played Zac and solo queue. If he can only play damage carries, it makes picks and ban for jungle super easy in a best of 5. So, concern expressed over the potential pool that closer has. We are still seeing, as I pointed out, lots of jungle bans going against us. Jordan, what's your concern level about closer and champ pool wise? So we don't have to like super detail it, because again, we'll talk more about this next week, but you know, just some off the top thoughts.
For me, it's unknowable whether he cannot play these champions, like if he's just doesn't have them in his pool, or if we recognize that right now he is our most consistent carry option. His stat line is the most reminiscent of somebody who can carry your entire team, or most representative. So for me, that would, it's like, do you want that guy on a tank is the question. And I have to imagine that to some degree, it's like, no, we need him to be getting all the kills that he's getting.
Yeah.
So
I kind of feel the same way. Like, it's a better look for us in general. Also, the thing with double marksman, we played it like once and it didn't go well, right? Mm-hmm. Like, when was the Abidago Lucian game?
It's been a while.
It was a while, but I remember it was not fun.
Yeah.
When we
I think
did
it was a quiet game.
It was against Dignitas and we lost. So, yeah. So yeah, it just double marksman doesn't seem to be in our vocabulary, at least right now. Maybe they'll add it in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I like what you have to say here. Vic,
I mean,
go ahead.
I think one last thing. I think the point stands, whether it's that he can't play it or that we're just not going with it. I think it does make us less dynamic, for sure. So that point is well made. Yeah,
especially in response to what we touted early on, which was, look at all the looks we have. How are you going to prepare for us? And certainly that has dwindled. Yep. Vic MCG says, Abidaga has talked that around objectives, they don't have a leader that takes over the comms and directs the team. I believe a lot of the disorganized play we've seen can be attributed to this. I'm not sure how we fix an issue like this, because I think a leader should step into the role naturally rather than a player being forced. But it is rather concerning, because often you see teams make a unified movement, and regardless of if it was the right or wrong play, it works because they did it together. So I just hope we figure it out for playoffs. Fair concern. You remember the closer on the Baron when the team wasn't fiasco. We've also seen like Abidaga seeming to hesitate or maybe looking for a flank or a position that the rest of the team isn't really forcing the opponents into. It definitely seems like there's some disconnect there. And if he's coming out and saying it,
Yeah.
then it's pretty hard to dispute. I don't know what happens there. And what was the difference earlier? Did we have that strong voice in the first things, or were they just all talking and they happen to be of like mind? I don't know. I honestly, I haven't paid close attention to the comms videos. I know they've released a lot of them. I don't know if they've stopped that recently. Or if the comms videos are still being released, but maybe that's worth a look to gain some insight into this question where we're obviously not going to really have an answer. And yeah, I know Abadaga is talking about Crackdown. Yes, I know that was where he said this, but I'm just saying, it's something to look into potentially, but it certainly looks like some of the play reflects it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's fair.
I would just assume that would be Huhi for us. Like he feels like the most, most experienced, most vocal. So I don't know if there's a reason that he's not doing that now, or if he never was. But
I remember it feeling like Someday was doing a lot of comms earlier on in the split, so I wonder if that's been a change as well. Carl Scale 1 says Luger and Kenvi are ready for the LCS. 100 T are going to have some tough decisions in the offseason. My prediction is Kenvi will be promoted and Closer will be moved to another team. That's a hot take right there.
That's a hot take.
Sound the hot take alarm. That is really tough, though. It's reminiscent of earlier 100 Thieves predicaments, right? When we had like Fake God behind Someday and Fake God looking like our most promising next talent, right? So when you're in those situations, it's kind of like, well, do you sell the player or do you hold on to them? And boy, howdy, we're in that same situation again, but only with 3 or 4 that we're really holding on to and keeping away from the other team. I don't know. It's a good problem to have, though, right?
It is. It is a good problem to have. It's still a problem. It's a challenge. Right now, it just feels to me like Closer is, like I said just a couple takes ago, I would be really worried that if we move Closer, we just don't, like, he's clutched so many situations for us. We didn't mention, by the way, some days Gnar boomerang to.
Oh yeah, we didn't call that out.
We should at least say that on the pod because it was magical.
Yeah. Though it was spotted to us by Lost, but yeah.
It was. He helped us out a little bit. Just to continue the TSM storyline that he's not everyone's favorite player on that team. So yeah, I like that's for me. Closer just seems so valuable to the team right now. I think it'd be really hard to replace him.
Yeah. As crazy as it sounds, I think a top lane swap is more likely than a jungle swap, if you ask me, my opinion. But all right. Nick Morris at 100 Academy loss was a huge success. Every play they tried to make in mid game was borderline feasible, which is a hilarious way to say it. If 1 or 2 of them flipped the other way, like Impact backing, they would have won. And I remember that, where they thought Impact had backed in that top lane play, and they would have gotten the kill. Yeah, so I think we've kind of gone over that we agree with that.
But that's the kind of take that I think I like, that he's looking to see what could have been and what was, what almost was, right? And when you have a team like that, like if what you're doing is critiquing your starting team, I think it's fair to just say, look, if it didn't work, it didn't work, and you got the loss anyway.
Yeah.
But for this team, it's like, they swung for the fences, and it landed at the warning track, and a lot, like, it wasn't far off.
Yeah. So for the next take, I mean, every once in a while when we do the listener takes, somebody comes through with like one that totally flips my perception of where we're at. I'm pretty strong-minded, so that doesn't happen a lot. But some of you guys come through with some really interesting takes, and you see some things that we don't really see. Dr. Nolly pointing out about the game against EG, the final game of the season, saying, I don't know, this team looked different this game. They seem like complete different players. And wow, that's really something to think about.
That's hard hitting.
True Venom says, what do you think Sven's take on 100T? He says 100T are weaker than EG and they are not going to Worlds. It's going to be TSM, C9, and EG. Jordan, what do you think is Sven's take there?
I mean, look, that's not the craziest take I've ever heard, right? Like, I don't know. I think you can certainly disagree with Sven, but I think that that's in the realm of possibilities, right? Like, it doesn't feel to me like we are a lock for Worlds at this point. We do have to earn it, and he has just given us a preview of his prediction for our matchup against EG, assuming that they don't lose to Dig. So we know which way he's going to go in that series. And, I guess we'll see what we predict, but it doesn't feel like he is trolling to me.
Doesn't feel like he's trolling. I'll say this. EG, best of 5. Jizuke is going to troll 2 of them away at least, right? So maybe it's kind of a bold take. It doesn't take me. It doesn't hit me as like a hot take really because of what form's been like in the last. But I got faith. I do have faith. We'll talk more about it next week. Marp says, "What do you think will be the biggest factor in us fighting to win LCS and showing a good performance? So, for example, someday showing up, or our bot lane being consistent, or closer being MVP closer." So the one biggest factor for 100T to do well on an LCS playoffs run.
Do you want my answer?
Yeah, I do.
I kind of feel like, look, for me, this is probably oversimplifying it, and I haven't thought about this for more than a few seconds. I think we need Abadaga to have a couple of carry games.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. That's where I was going. So again, inting Jizuke, right, might happen, probably will happen at least in a little bit. We need to see the counter to that, right? We need to see Abadaga taking care. Like, this is what has been building for me, is just like, we're not getting the full thing out of him. You were right. What's that?
You were right on that. You called that out a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think you were onto something.
What was the segment called? Like, this might be something or something. I forget what the segment was called, but it has seemed more and more like that. And I still believe that he is an absolutely excellent player, leader, capable of doing this. And so to me, that's the X factor now. I feel like more or less we know what we're going to get out of the other players, some days maybe champ dependent, so if we draft with that in mind, we can keep someday in a good place. But yeah, to me, it's Abadaga. Is there playoff Abadaga to counter playoff perks? Is there miracle run Abadaga, making a reappearance to make the miracle run for the title turn? So that's what I'm hoping for. Finally, Sentry03 says, as uneasy as I am about 100T, EG are actually the best opponent to face out of the group of TL, C9, and EG. EG seem to have found a form, but I think that is their peak. TL and C9 have shown in the past that they can have higher highs in playoffs, and both seem to be improving down the stretch. We know what EG are now. We know what EG are, and now we get to see what they do in a best of 5, while we show nothing as we try to improve, which is cool. You get to watch the Dignitas series first. Also, getting to see teams in general with the playoff patch should prevent any misreads of the meta, as there are 4 best of 5s played before we take the stage, which we pointed out earlier. So, on this, I honestly, like, if you look at it, you know how, if you look at it from like a probability standpoint, or just like a pattern standpoint, and you kind of take the nameplates off or whatever, teams tend to find a peak and then regress from it. Right? It's hard, as I've said over and over, it's hard to be really good for a long time. We saw that with our own team, right? And EG, if you look at the win-loss history, it looks like they're on that about to fall off kind of thing, because it's just hard to make a run and be consistently that good. So I actually kind of agree with this, which is not where my mind was a week ago. So I do think we are fortunate in that, right? Like, dominoes have fallen in a way that have set us up for our best shot at an LCS title maybe ever. I mean, we had the 2018 spring was, in finals, but
no, I think this is a really well thought through take from Century. EG lost to Liquid last weekend. They beat C9. So I guess Santorin forgot that was one path for C9 to kind of get themselves an edge there, but it's beside the point. So yeah, no, I think that's right. Like it feels like the other teams are on the upswing for a variety of reasons, right? Yeah. And I think there's a chance that they continue to improve over the course of playoffs. But I agree. I feel like EG, as we've seen, having a hot streak doesn't mean that you are now an infallible team.
Yeah.
So,
though not to undersell what they've done here. I mean, just looking at this, let me do a quick count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. They've won 14 of their last 17 games.
That's insane.
That is a really long run of being great. They lost to Team Liquid, as you pointed out. Their other losses were to Immortals and Golden Guardians. So against top teams, they've been slamming.
We can relate to that, having dropped a few games to teams you shouldn't drop games to.
The same teams, So that's where we're at with this. Okay, so Jordan, that means the final thing for us to do this week is to make our predictions for this week. Oh, wait, we're on a playoff bye. Let's go!
I don't have to continue to lose ground to the Prophet.
I predict we will remain in playoffs this weekend. We will continue on to the next round of playoffs after this weekend.
Did you auto?
Prophet Cole,
you actually hit the auto.
Lock it in. Did I really?
I'm just.
Something's wrong, man. Something's wrong. You remember this happened to me on stream?
Or something's right.
There we go. Yeah, some button is bound twice.
It's the air horn button. We do know because this happened the last time you hit air horn as well.
Yeah.
It's
anyway,
like a randomizer.
Anyway, yeah, I think I am happy to report that Prophet Cole will remain undefeated this week.
Yeah.
We will continue on to playoffs. Okay, what else is going on? We got Rec League on Thursday. We got a week off to kind of sit and hang out. Jordan and I, as I mentioned, we will indeed have 100 Talk next Monday. Mm-hmm. So be ready for that. We'll talk more about preparing for what is probably the EG series, but maybe the Dignitas series. Let's go,
baby.
But in the meantime, keep an eye on our Twitter for signing up for Rec League. It's a lot of fun. We like to do it. And yeah, we'll end there. Regular season has come to a close. There were some extremely high highs, and there's some kind of bummer lows.
Yeah.
Overall, though, again, I feel good about this split.
Certainly. We finished in second. Look, I mean, I think it's hard to not go back to 2018 where it's like, oh boy, we were pretty hot there for a minute and now we're not as hot, and we've seen this play out before, and we're going to go to Worlds. It's not going to be great. We're going to be embarrassed and everybody's going to say mean things about us. But I don't think we need to go there yet. So it's tempting to do that just because that's what we are familiar with as fans. It's our muscle memory, but we got a lot of leagues still to play, and we'll see. This is our first look at this team in playoffs, right?
Yeah. Best of fives coming up under Reaper, under Abadaga. Let's go.
Yeah. Let's see what happens.
Well, that being said, we love you guys and we miss you already.